Okay, brothers and sisters.
It's still 40 clicks to
65.
65.
Yeah. But no, to Damascus, sorry. Syria is less. You see that big body of water over there? That's already Syria. You see this little body of water over here? That's Israel. At the end of this little body of water, there is a fence. It's kind of hard to see it, but it runs alongside that way, and then it reaches that UN camp, and then it turns a 90-degree straight towards the east.
It's a UN peacekeeper camp.
Some kind of a peacekeeper, yeah. If you'll notice, you'll see they're on the Israeli side, but for some reason, Israel's the most called to order by the UN.
Oh, yeah.
But then when they come over here, they stay on the Israeli side. So why are they staying on the Israeli side? Why don't they go into Syria?
Because they can get paid. Bashar Assad's not going to pay.
Where's the actual assistance?
So the water here? If you see that big body of water, that's already on the Syrian side. The small one is on the Israeli side. Yeah, that's Syria, but there's a small one. Right at the end of the small pool, it's a reservoir. At the end of that reservoir, the fence goes all the way down. It's kind of hard to see, but over there you can see the patrol road. It goes down and then it turns straight to the east over there at that UN camp. It's pretty clear where it turns straight to the east.
Is that a fence or road over there?
Yeah.
Is that a fence or road?
Yeah. That's a fence.
And that's Syria over there.
No, that's Israel over there. It's Syria over there.
So all those home. Oh, I see. Okay. On their
So you see this ghost town over here, that's Syria. That's old Kenedra. Now over there, that's new Kenedra. Now the camp actually sits on the old road to Damascus. It would have gone through Kenedra, old Kenedra. And then if you take it through Kenedra, you see there's a highway going in the middle. That's the road called straight that goes to Damascus.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they came through here.
So he told me 40 clicks.
That goes to Damascus. Yeah.
When he told me 40 clicks, he meant to Damascus, the city I was in.
There's not a road or there's not a sign or anything.
No, nothing but that sign over there. So, this is where the Syrians were trying to break their way in. And the Valley of Tears is right down here. And what happened was the Israelis were just overwhelmed in the beginning. And by the first day of the war, the southern part just collapsed. Everything fell. And all the commanding generals actually died on their tanks. David Israeli.
So the big body of water is in the country of Syria, and then the smaller body of water is in Israel, and between the two is the actual fence, which evidently runs kind of close to this smaller body of water in Israel. In that way, that direction is Mount Hermon.
By the name of Avigdor Kahalani.
Mount Hermon.
Avigdor Kahalani, he is actually still alive, believe it or not. And while he's on his tank, he's the commanding of this force that have 14 tanks left or so. And he starts hearing on the radio, "My belly is empty, my belly is empty, I'm hungry." And it's not food that they're asking for, but ammunition. There's only so much they can do without ammunition. So he tells them what they're going to have to do is fall back for about 14 kilometers, about quite a while behind us, and rearm, regroup, refuel, and then come back here. And he leaves one of the tanks to just stay here. And he says, "Hold on, why you leaving me? I ain't got no ammo." He says, "Yeah, we know that, but they don't know that." And he tells them to go up and down different ramps and to reverse backwards and go up another one, reverse and come back. Maybe they'll think there's more than one tank. It takes them about 2 hours to go back, refuel, rearm, and come back in towards this way. Now, as he comes back, he's making his way back to the ramps. The ramps that he was on was right over here on this hill, over here. And while he's about to go up the ramps, he sees it's a disaster. It's full of Syrian tanks up there. The tank he left is up in smoke. And now he has to, he's in the valley, and the enemy's up above. And right about then, he remembers what happened to him a few years back in the 67 war. He was a young tank commander, and he was down in the Gaza Strip as they were breaking into Egypt back in the 6-day war. And his tank got hit directly. He was on the seat with the thing open, so he got flown out. Everyone else got burned up. He got burned up 90% of his body as well. He's laying there on the sand. And he said, not me, that he turned to God. And he said, God, if you keep me alive, surely there's something I can do for your sake. And that's what was going through his mind over here while he was looking at all these Syrians coming. All he knows is that his family is behind him in Haifa, and there's nothing there between the Syrians and his family except him and his 13 tanks. He doesn't know at this point that his brother is already dead. He was also a tank commander, and he died down south. And right then and there, he gets to the understanding that the only way he's coming off of this mountain is in a body bag. And he tells his guys what they need to do is to get back up into those ramps as quick as possible. But that's kind of a suicide mission, because the bad guys are up high and you're down low. But he says to them, nevertheless, you're going to have to get up into those ramps, so come on everybody, let's go, charge! And he moves forward with his tank. No other tank is moving but his. And in the beginning, in his innocence, he thinks he has a problem with his communications, with his radio. So he goes down, plays on the radio, but the radio is perfectly fine. So they're scared to follow him. So he switches on to the personal radios where all the teams talk within themselves in the tanks, so each and every soldier could hear him inside. And he goes on and he says, guys, what's wrong with you now? Don't you understand the situation that we're at? Don't you see what's going on? You need to get up there, and I'm moving, I'm going out. If you don't want to do it, okay, I don't care. But I never thought that I would live to see the day of the Syrians fighting better than my soldiers, braver than my soldiers. Look how many of them we killed, and still they're not giving up. I'm going, you do what you want to do. And that's all he had to say, brother. And slowly but surely they started making their way, advancing up into making their way in a very, very close combat. I mean, some of those targets were like 10 meters away when you'd make a turn, and there's all kinds of stories on how he makes this turn and he sees 3 tanks, he takes out the first one, he goes to the second one to very quickly aim, fire. The gunner asks, what range? And he almost kicks him in the head, shut up and fire for crying out loud. There is no range. And then he hits up on the third one, and when he goes to the third one, he sees a cannon right in front of him. And he's like, fire, fire, and he's pushing, nothing's happening. And he looks down and he sees him trying to struggle to take this cannon out. He got stuck inside. And they're driving it out, got it in, cool, and fire. And I think that was the fastest tank battle in history, to be honest. But anyhow, down there, there's 2 tanks. You can see I think it's a Centurion tank that the Israelis were using, a British tank. And then you see the T-55, the Russian tank, and it's like they're really one next to each other. was a very, very close battle, and it was called, it was actually the biggest tank battleground in the world. And it was named the Valley of Tears because of all the tears of the mothers that day. Oh, look, you can see the Mount Hermon in the distance. But slowly but surely they were able to push back the Syrians, and eventually Dayan got on the radio and said, well, now the Syrians are going to learn that the road that leads from Damascus to Tel Aviv also leads back to Damascus. He didn't tell anybody that he got cyanide poisoned, that he was going to commit suicide a few days ago, because he thought it was the end. But by God's grace, they were able to overcome the enemy. At that point, right before they started to make their way, they already reached artillery distance of Damascus when the Russians stood on their feet and said, well, we have to take care of the Israeli aggression. Enough of the Israeli aggression. If they don't stop, we're going to be pulled into this war ourselves. And of course, nobody wanted to see that happen. So while we're here looking at the road to Damascus, I can't help but remember the book of Acts, chapter 9. Remember the book of Acts, chapter 9?
So which one is exactly the road to Damascus?
Well, this is
road, that main road there?
This is Old Kenatra right here. See Old Kenatra, the ghost town? Now, if you look over there, you see a UN camp. The UN camp actually sits on the road. There used to be a pass right at the UN camp where there was a crossing for the Druze who live here and their families that are there, and for humanitarian reasons. I don't know if that crossing is still open, but the crossing would take you through Old Kenatra, lead you to New Kenatra. You see New Kenatra? There's a very distinguished highway in the middle of New Kenatra, and it's a road called Straight, and it leads straight to Damascus.
So is the UN camp still?
The UN is still active, yeah. And you see them every now and again coming up here.
Useless organization.
So, in chapter 9 of the book of Acts, this is what it says. And Saul, yet breathing out threatenings and slaughter against the disciples of the Lord, went unto the high priest, and desired of him letters to Damascus, to the synagogues, that if he found any of this way, whether they were men or women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem. And as he journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly there shined round about him a light from heaven, and he fell to the earth, and heard a voice saying unto him, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And he said, Who art thou, Lord? And the Lord said, I am Jesus whom thou persecutest. It is hard for thee to kick against the pricks. And he, trembling and astonished, said, Lord, what wilt thou have me to do? And the Lord said unto him, Arise and go into the city, and it shall be told thee what thou must do. And the men which journeyed with him stood speechless, hearing a voice, but seeing no man. And Saul arose from the earth, and when his eyes were opened, he saw no man, but they led him by the hand, and brought him into Damascus. And there was 3 days, and he was there, and he was 3 days without sight, and neither did eat nor drink. And there was a certain disciple at Damascus named Hananiah. And to him said the Lord in a vision, Hananiah, and he said, Behold, I am here, Lord. And the Lord said unto him, Arise and go into the street which is called Straight, and inquire in the house of Judas for one called Saul of Tarsus. For behold, he prayeth, and hath seen in a vision a man named Hananiah coming in and putting his hands on him, that he might receive his sight. Then Hananiah answered the Lord. Do you ever answer the Lord, brother? I have heard by many things this man how much evil he hath done to thy saints in Jerusalem. And here he hath authority from the chief priest to bind all that call on thy name. But the Lord said unto him, Go thy way, for he is a chosen vessel unto me, to bear my name before the Gentiles, and kings, and the children of Israel. For I will show him how great things he must suffer for my name's sake. They're suffering again, brother. I guess you're right. And Hananiah as went his way and entered into the house, putting in the hands of the Lord, even Jesus, that appeared to thee on the way that thou comest, and sent me that thou mightest receive thy sight, and be filled with the Holy Ghost. Immediately there fell from his eyes as it had been scales, and he received sight forthwith, and rose and was baptized.
I'm at the Mount BENTAL viewpoint looking into Syria. That large body of water in the distance is Syria. This quite a bit smaller body of water in the distance is in Israel. And the border, the fence line, is actually just pretty close to that body of water there. And then if you look a little to the left here, off in the distance, that is Mount Hermon. And Mount Hermon is just a short walk from Caesarea Philippi.